Hello and welcome to the Guns on Pegs podcast live at the Game Fair. Has everyone got a drink? Great.
Cheers. Cheers. Thank you.
So, as usual, I am joined by my co-host Chris Horn, founder of Guns on Pegs. My name is George Brown. I am the editor at Guns on Pegs and the head of inspiration at Scribehound. Thank you so much to all of you for coming along. Chris, we're on stage at the Game Fair Theatre. Do you think that means we've made it?
We've been given an upgrade. It's an upgrade from the stand, isn't it? Last year we did this on the stand just down the road because we weren't serious enough to be allowed onto the theatre stage. So we've got someone to thank in a second for making that happen.
Moving up in the world. So, Chris, what's the plan?
A plan? For those of you who've listened to the Guns on Pegs podcast before, there is never a plan.
No, that's not true. Sometimes there's a plan, and then it doesn't happen.
I actually have a couple of notes here, because there are a couple of things we've got to get through. I think we've got a lot of new listeners here today. A lot of you might... Can you have a raise of hands if you've heard an episode of the podcast before today? A lot of people. Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, but for those that haven't, this is all about listener correspondence. It's all about having a laugh. This is the fun side of shooting. You know, when you go away on a bit of a shooting trip, you get together with your mates, you're in the pub the night before. That bit of shooting is what we try and do on the podcast, because that's the bit about shooting we absolutely love.
Yeah, that's right. What we like to do is have a guest on each episode, and those people in the room will be able to see who our guest is. But for the benefit of the people who will be listening at home when we put this podcast out, Chris, you better just introduce our guest for this episode.
This is weird for you, isn't it? Our guest today, he's a bit of a celebrity in the shooting world, aren't you? He's making faces at me. Our guest today is none other than the owner, manager, starter, permanent fixture of the very famous Fieldsports channel. Can we have a huge round of applause, not just for now, but for all the effort he does on stage here during the Game Fair, for Charlie Jacoby.
Thank you so much. Can I just be none other from now on? Would that be okay? Just forget Charlie Jacoby, just none other.
Have you sat on this side of the sort of interview before on this stage?
No, it's very weird. I keep wanting to interrupt and tell you to get off the stage and things like that. No, never.
I mean, you can take over if you want. I'll give you the script and... No? Okay, fair enough.
This is bliss. You carry on, George.
How's it been today? Has it been... And the rest of the show, how have the interviews been? How have the panels... Have you been stirring up trouble?
I think we've had some trouble. Yes, we had Daniel Zeichner on. He's carries the shadow. I'm sorry, I'm already being boring. We have had fun people too. We had Labour politicians promising that he won't touch shooting. Yeah, believe that. Right. Yeah. Tomorrow we've got Therese Coffey, who's the DEFRA secretary, coming, and the really crucial political question of that interview is she going to be able to get out of our Fieldsports channel butterfly chairs?
Well, I nearly fell over getting into them, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Are you going to ask how long she's going to have her job for?
I don't think there's any point. I think we know.
Awkward.
So, Charlie, you came on one of the very first episodes in our first series, quite a long time ago now. And when you came on, you talked very passionately about how important you think it is that shooting and field sports in general make a big noise in public, in the, well, you might call the mainstream media. But I thought, while we've got you briefly at the moment, we might have a talk about the media that we have within field sports. So
before we do that...
Oh, go on then.
Drink.
Very important. Yeah, I would say last time I was on the Guns on Pegs podcast, you made me drink, and I am singularly without a glass at the moment.
Well, only because I was about to sit down and I was about to pick my pint up and have a sip, and I felt very sorry for him. He's been sitting here all day.
Okay, go on then.
Right, just quickly. So, for those of you that have not heard the podcast before, our favourite segment by miles is called What's That You're Drinking? Now, today, it's What's That We're Drinking, because I can see a lot of pints that have just been given out to the audience. But before we do that, we've bought our guest a drink, because I know he's dying for one. And you can now tell the audience what we've bought you, and you don't have to finish it all right now, but...
It's a bottle of Guns on Pegs cough mixture, I think is probably the closest. Yeah, it's definitely cough mixture. It says it's called raspberry infused liqueur, but Yeah, I think that's Benadryl, isn't it? That's stuff
we were worried about your throat with all the talking you've had to do so far this weekend and more you've got to do, so that'll just help settle the larynx.
One thing about this raspberry-infused liqueur, I had a party once for people. The bottle they had to bring was the bottle that made them first throw up. It was brilliant.
What was yours?
Well, obviously all the hunting people came with, the cherry brandies and the hunt meat stuff, Obviously all my local friends from Somerset came with cider, which is why we don't drink cider in the West Country anymore. But yes, raspberry liqueur was a big one. They had to peel those off the floor at the end of the evening. Thank you very much.
What was the first drink that made you throw up?
I haven't the faint, probably supermarket lager, actually.
So Charlie's, this is actually quite a well-known drink. Here we go. This is a gin bothy. Gin bothy, actually, they do produce really good stuff. Raspberry liqueur. He's poured himself a generous measure, which is good. Long day. Cheers, Charlie.
Prost.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that was lovely.
I will just tell everyone else what they're drinking, because I don't think anyone knows.
Well, I don't know what they're drinking.
So so we've launched a new business called Scribehound, and when we launched it, we thought, what's going to make it go down well on the stand? Well, we'll just give away beer. That's always a good thing. That's very us, isn't it? So we were like, can we find a beer company that has some link in name to Scribehound? So we found the Hairy Dog Brewery, which is a nice little touch, wasn't it?
Very nice. I like it a lot.
Who are in West Sussex, and everyone here is drinking a pint of Hairy Dog Pale Ale. Can I get a sort of raised glass if you like it? Look at that. That's virtually unanimous.
It is unanimous for sure.
It's good, isn't it? Especially after a long day at the game fair.
I've had a very long day at the game fair, so I'm drinking whiskey.
Shock horror. What, any particular?
Yeah, it's Aberlour, rare cask. Available at the supermarket.
Supermarket whiskey. I think you're failing, because that must be... I think I've heard that at least 3 or 4 times before.
You have, because it's really good.
So when we started the pod, the idea is that you turn up to each episode with a new drink, and it's got a little bit of a reason behind it. Obviously, I did well there. I've come up with a bit of a story. You've let us down.
I have. I've had other things on my mind, like working out what we were going to say in this podcast.
We can leave that up to Charlie.
Well, so on that note, Charlie, what I was about to ask you was, do you think it's possible that maybe there's a bit too much negativity in the field sports media in general, that we have a tendency to focus on the bad news and the challenges?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. And we're as guilty of it at Field Sports Channel as anybody. And I every week I look at the news list and I go, okay, the government wants to ban this, the government wants to ban that, the RSPB wants to ban the other, and this bloke's been caught doing something terrible. And I think we've got to find some positivity, I mean, tomorrow morning I managed to find the positivity. The one big, good quality, big game hunting story in the UK is that they've reopened tuna fishing in Cornwall.
That is good news, isn't it?
You can go big game fishing. I couldn't find anybody to talk about it, but that was our one possible outing. No, you're right, and we must be more upbeat. I mean, frankly, there are so many people here at the game fair saying such good things about shooting. So many people involved in what we do. It's obvious, isn't it? It's a good thing.
I think this is such an important point you're making, because I feel the tone this year from standing on the stand, the amount of negativity it's soul destroying at times. And I get the point everyone's making, which is like, who's standing up to fight the fight, all that sort of stuff. But I think there's a bit of a spiral that you can end up in here, which is if we talk positively, people sort of find ways for this positivity to find its way outside of our world, and it filters into others that we're talking to when it's in the pub or at a dinner party or whatever it might be. I don't know how I know it's very difficult to get out this trap we're in, but it's dangerous.
We haven't found a way of doing a kind of easily doing a sort of upbeat, positive feature online. Everything has to be short and sharp, and it's difficult to say, well, hey, my life's great, short and sharp. It's very easy to go, oh, my dog died. That is a more interesting story, and it bubbles up to the top of the Facebook feed.
This is because of the way that the online world works, isn't it?
I think it is.
Well, just journalism in general, actually, the media in general. Good news is not exciting. You know, everything's fine is not a great headline.
I think it's more complicated than that. I mean, if you take a Sunday Times story, you know, the classic Sunday Times story is supposed to make you significantly more angry after you finish reading it than you were before you started reading it. Therefore, it has to be negative in that respect. But yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, good news does not sell.
But, I mean, so I think sort of by accident, we set out to create a podcast that was just fun to do. And I think we sort of stumbled upon what you might call a sort of mission for the podcast, which is actually to try and focus on the fun bits of shooting, the silly bits of shooting, because it's all inherently ridiculous. And so is our podcast, really.
Inherently ridiculous is so true. When I go and tell my American friends, who, don't forget, go to Africa to decorate their houses, which is a bit weird, that what we do in Britain is walk slowly towards pheasants until they fly over waiting guns. You're joking, right?
Whilst dressed as somebody from 1920, for no reason.
Marvellous. It's obvious, isn't it? Yeah, brilliant. I do it.
So what can we do? What can the shooting field sports media do to try and focus more on the fun and the laughter and the joy that shooting brings? Is there anything that we can do as a group of businesses and organisations that are sort of involved in this?
With my media consultancy hat on.
Correct.
Yeah, I do think there's things we can do. I mean, the obvious one that most people say is we should focus on the positive, you know, we should do conservation stories. And the trouble with that is they're just boring. They're just boring. What you can't beat in the media, oh, look at that.
We've just been delivered
had a delivery.
This is like TMS, Test Match Special, isn't it?
Is it cake?
It's like cake.
Better than cake.
Do you want to tell us what you've delivered us?
So it's a pheasant goujon and a steak in a Jamaican jerk spice. A venison steak.
Life's tough, isn't it?
One thing we can do is feed the guests. That's definitely true.
Yeah, this is a new high for the podcast.
So this is, I know who delivered us. That's Louisa from Eat Wild. Great, obviously, pushing game out to the masses and to us.
Very nice.
Not that we need to be converted, but we'll enjoy it. Charlie, do you want to go first?
I'm not going to speak with my mouth full, but I'm going to take that and hold it while I just make my one last point. What we can do that works in the media is we can, and I was just talking to Ross Brawn, who's from Formula One, about this, is we can talk about the fun stuff. We can show photographs of people smiling at each other and laughing, and you know, we have a guy called Dan Thor who appears on Fieldsports Channel a lot. One of the lovely things about Dan Thor films is that everybody is laughing all the time. It's just that's all you have to do. It's a relationship, and it's positive, and it's happy.
Yeah, and I mean, people know I write a fair amount of rubbish, basically, when I'm writing on Guns, on Pegs and Scribehound. Yes. I'm not enough of an expert to write knowing and learned pieces, so I lean into what I'm good at, which is mucking about. And I like to think that what that does is help people to remember what it is that they love about shooting, you know, whether it's the characters or the slightly ridiculous things that we get up to. And I would love to see more of that sort of thing going forwards.
It's not just the ridiculous. I mean, you know, the sort of the bloopers reel, although that's funny, it's that point of contact between two people. That's what people really, really like. I mean, especially in Teleland. And, you know, everything to do with social media is basically telly these days. So I think that's where we need to be. I would love to see people not afraid to use their cameras, whether they're hunting or they're shooting or they're fishing. You know, obviously, be judicious, be careful. But, you know, people try to turn it against us. But the idea of playing into the hands of the antis, I think that's nonsense. The antis hate us anyway. Just go for it. Show how much you're enjoying it.
I must say, my opinion on this has switched a little bit. When we spoke about something similar to this a long time ago, and the danger with social media is always that people end up posting the wrong type of stuff without thinking about it. I mean, they maybe don't know what would look good. But you're saying just get it out there.
Yes, I am, because actually the danger of the media is not so much the posting what's wrong, and you see this over and over again with stories in the media. So the media can do two things. It can change the social license for something, and we're hoping it's going to change the social license for shooting. It can get people fired. This week we saw the boss of NatWest get fired because Nigel Farage used the media. Worked very well. Very, very, very good like that. The reason she got fired is not because she said those whatever terrible things she's supposed to have said to whoever she's supposed to have said it to, but because when they said to her, you said those terrible things, she was on the back foot. So let people be enthusiastic, let people be positive, but remind them that if somebody says, whoa, you shouldn't have done that, you know, don't be on the back foot. Just say, yes, I should. I mean, okay, obviously, if they're doing something illegal, they shouldn't do it. But
Yeah.
yes, I should. It's fine. That's what we do.
So, changing topic completely to bring
Oh.
it back to something fun.
Thank you.
You must have something cool lined up this year that you're particularly looking forward to.
Yeah, it's weird, though.
Go on.
I mean, it's so weird. I think you might think, I'm not... okay.
You can't lead with "it's weird" and then not tell us.
Okay, all right. So we all did strange things during lockdowns, many of us in the privacy of our own homes, yes. Okay,
Where are you going with that one?
One of the things I did on my 15-minute statutory exercise was to work out that in Britain we have quite a lot of water that you can fish that sounds like letters of the alphabet. We have the River Y, we have the X, we have the D, we have the C. And so I thought to myself, I wonder if we can do...
Is that all of them? Have you tried?
No, we can do more. We can do more.
Okay.
And I thought, could we do all 26? And I discovered that if you go around the world, you can. So I am enjoying fishing all the letters of the alphabet. And in September, as a family holiday, paid for out of my own pocket money, I'm going to go to America. And I'm going to fish the reservoir that sits over the drowned town of H. I'm going to noodle catfish on the River P in Alabama. And I'm going to knock out some smallmouth bass in W Creek, Texas. So
That's amazing.
that's my fun.
That's so
This
good.
is epic.
And is this going to be a book project or something like that? Is that the plan?
Oh, it's going to be multimedia. Thank you. Thank you for that endorsement. Strangely enough, my wife doesn't do that when I tell her.
I did not expect that answer when I asked that question.
Yeah.
It's fun. I've rendered Chris Horn speechless. Can we have a round of applause?
What's the furthest you're going to complete that?
Okay, well, the strangest one I did last year, and I should say I'm taking my impressionable and rather entitled teenage daughter with me as my illustrator. We went to Liberia in West Africa to fish the River G. My social media manager at Fieldsports Channel said Liberia is a better place for a kidnap than a holiday, and she was right. We spent a week in Liberia. It took exactly 3.5 days to get to the River G. I fished it for 40 minutes, and then it took exactly just under 3.5 days to get back to Monrovia, the capital, and get out. The only significant advantage of this is I discovered a new piece of policy we should all adopt here. If we're caught in a pandemic in the future, the Liberian policy is you pay $70 and you don't have COVID. Works for me.
Where is the River Z or Z?
It's the River Z. You're absolutely right, and I think we're going to have to differ over pronunciation here. I think locally it's pronounced as Xi, and it's in China, and it's where they fish with cormorants. It's
amazing.
It's a bit of a
That's a
conceit.
lot further than Liberia.
That is a lot further. No, the Liberia one I had to tell you about because I've done it. No, there are some weird ones, weirder ones.
What a trip.
That's amazing.
Go on then, what are you up to?
Well,
Top that.
I can't. I might have a couple of shoot days at home. We might shoot
Going
a
to the
few
pub with
partridges,
my
and that's about it. So, Charlie, I think you've got to leave us now, haven't you? I think you've got to jump off.
No, he's staying.
Oh,
I wanted to.
you're staying.
Can you?
I can say yes. I'm loving that. I'm getting applause. I haven't had applause all day. All my guests have had applause here at the Game Fair Theatre. I haven't had anything. It's great. Very
Good,
kind
he
of you.
stayed.
Thank
We
you.
convinced
Okay,
him.
good.
Right,
Right.
correspondence time.
Correct.
Right,
yes.
so correspondence is what makes this podcast epic. We get people writing in to the team at gunsonpegs.com.
pod@gunsonpegs.com. How many times have we done this?
Oh, God. 60, don't worry about it. pod@gunsonpegs.com. Why do they write in? What can they get?
Because anybody whose correspondence is read out on the podcast receives a pair of the highly exclusive and very desirable Guns on Pegs podcast shooting sock garters as modelled, I think, by these four morons over here.
We've got more than four. I've only got 4 morons. Okay. Good lads who come for a party.
And so our first segment of correspondence each episode is called Whose Bird Is It Anyway? And it's where we try to resolve our listeners' shooting dilemmas and quandaries and queries. And we make sure that our correspondents are anonymous so they don't get in trouble with the people involved in the stories they send us. This one comes from somebody we are calling Spartacus, who asks, the price of shooting has risen hugely in the last few seasons. seasons, and it's making it more and more challenging to get my usual group of mates excited about our annual shooting trip. I really value these days out with the guys and would hate to see them disappear because the cost becomes too high. What can I say to the team to get them excited to go away for a day's shooting somewhere, complete with the overnight stay and overindulgence the night before?
Sorry, I'm eating.
Charlie, over to you. What do you think?
Is this a Desert Island question?
This chap's worried that his mates are going to bail on him and he's not going to have anyone to go on shooting trips with. He's worried that the cost of shooting has become prohibitive, and he wants our advice on how to get his mates excited about going with him.
This is the question that with the obvious answer, guns on pegs, isn't it, surely?
I was thinking that.
Yeah, can we give an answer that doesn't include the word guns on pegs?
Well, the check's in the post.
Yeah, blimey, okay.
So he's looking for value ideas to basically get his mates excited again, because it's all getting a bit too much for that group.
Well, I mean, one of the things I've really loved doing at Fieldsports Channel, and this might be a little bit out there again, is weird stuff like the Cabbage White butterfly has no natural predators. It produces a kind of mustard gas. If you buy 2.2 dustshot, you can shoot it in your back garden. It's brilliant fun. We get into so much trouble for shooting butterflies. Don't shoot any other butterfly. It's the only one. Shoot cabbage whites. Another thing, you can ferret mice with bumblebees.
Wait,
yes,
what?
you can. You can collect up bumblebees in March. You can introduce them to mouse holes. The bumblebees will lay their eggs in the mouse holes. To clear out the mice, they change the ringtone on their wings as they go, and they go wee, they go wee, and the mice run out. If you get your sister's hairnet, you can catch the mice. We've done that.
You've had a long day, haven't you?
Of all the sentences I expected to hear today, you can ferret mice with bumblebees was not one of them. I'm not sure anybody's ever used those words in that order ever before in the English language, have they?
I thank you.
Honestly, there was a fairly straightforward question, a bit of idea about shooting trips and...
But I think actually you're onto something in doing the weird stuff, because I imagine that what these guys have been doing is going away and having their kind of fairly bog standard 200 bird day, stay in the pub the night before. It's all kind of a bit samey, and maybe the thing to do for these guys is to go and do something a bit out of the ordinary. Go and do something with a smaller bag size, maybe wildfowling or something like that on a wind-swept Scottish island somewhere or something like that.
You're onto it.
Where you've got a real experience that's new.
I agree with you. Look, that's what you've just described. Take, I think, a bit of knowledge. It's not that straightforward.
Well, I suppose what he's saying is, should I be going on the standard issue trad-driven day? And I think the answer is more and more, you don't have to.
I agree.
You couldn't do other things.
West coast of Scotland screams to me as the opportunity. Actually, any island off Scotland, you get away, you feel like you're nowhere near home. Well, you aren't anywhere near home.
Unless you live in the west coast of Scotland.
Yeah, of course. Even then, you're still quite far from it. You get a ferry or something, go away for a couple of nights, stay on the island, do a bit of mixed species, just get together as a group of mates, because it's not the shooting that makes it really fun. When you look back, it's all the bits around it. Yes, obviously the shooting's important. It gets you there. That, for me, is what I do in this scenario. There's some mega deals to get up and away there.
So is that what you do? You'd go to the west coast of Scotland and do some wildfowling and that kind of thing?
If our baby wasn't due in 4 weeks, I'd absolutely be doing that.
Are you responsible parents, you?
I know, I'm good. I should play that to her, shouldn't I?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that that or some sort of, I don't know, a walked-up species day or something like that where there's variety and it's just something out of the ordinary that you probably haven't done before, and that will then, I think, rekindle the excitement that everyone has. And then it sort of becomes part of the game, doesn't it, for next year, is who can find the maddest thing to do next year.
I might be making this up, but I'm feeling like there's more grouse moors doing walked-up mixed species days than there were before. I don't know why, and I've done one or two where they're unbelievable.
I know why. It's cheap as a run, isn't it? Fewer beaters required.
Well, and the keepers run them, so I can understand it from their point of view. Why not?
If I wanted to answer that question, I would probably be asking Chris Horn from Guns on Pegs, because he's the sort of person who knows the answer to that question.
I don't know, that's the point. No, but a mixed species day, that's your sort of thing?
Absolutely love it. I mean, it's kind of a slightly put-up job, and it sounds mildly you're trying to, like they're treating your game as targets, but you're not. On the day itself, it takes you from the bottom of the valley to the top of the moor. And if you exceed your previous best, you feel great. If you don't exceed your previous best, it's still wonderful.
But it is also a real test of skill, right? If you're standing under driven pheasants all day, at least by the end of the day, you're sort of getting on them a bit. But when you don't know what's about to get up in front of you, you have to really be on your game, and you have to be pretty decent to be able to respond and react to the flight of whatever it happens to be that gets up.
Have you done the McNab episode?
We have done a McNab episode.
What were the McNabs that kind of came out of that?
Well, we had our mutual friend, Mr. Simon Barr, on, and he told us a very long story about how he achieved his McNab. And I think at that point it was our longest episode to date. It has now been beaten, but it was a great episode, and we enjoyed it a lot, didn't we, Chris?
What are the variations on it, though?
Oh, there's so many. The McNorfolk.
We did the Ferrari McNab.
Did you?
Yeah, we got a Ferrari shooting break, and we went from red stag in, it was a bit of a calf really, but it was red enough in Cornwall, via grouse in Yorkshire, and then caught a salmon in the River Thurso on the north coast
Amazing.
of Scotland.
And how many speeding tickets?
It was expensive in petrol, I think we'll put it that way.
You did this in a Ferrari?
We did this in a Ferrari.
That's really obnoxious, isn't it?
Worth looking that one up. We did the Irish McNab, which is one of my most stressful ones to date. The lovely Chris DeMargary, who played saxophone for Simply Red, he and Mick Hucknall from Simply Red bought an estate in Ireland.
I knew the chap who was the guide there.
He was probably the reason it worked, but it only just worked. By 2:00 in the afternoon on the first day, we hadn't got anything. Luckily, Chris is an extremely good salmon fisher, and we got the salmon. There are only 2 grouse in Donegal. We got one of them. And about 5 minutes after it got dark, a seeker fell over as well. So we did it.
Amazing.
Right. Bit of unpopular opinion?
Well, do you think we've given good advice there? Do you think we might actually have done one of the rare ones where we've actually given someone helpful advice?
There was some helpful advice in there. I think your advice was absolutely incredible. I don't know if it's helpful, but it's amazing.
It's certainly surprising.
Can you put an article up on how to do this?
I think that's
Bumblebee
good. Yes.
ferreting.
Yes. There is a film. So the expert opinion comes from my dad, and what I love about this story is in the 1940s when he was a kid, a very old man told him about this and told him how when he was a kid, so this will be in the 1880s, he used to do this in the larder because he wasn't allowed to do any other kind of hunting and shooting on a Sunday. So he did exactly this. My dad did it in the 1940s, and I did it with my dad a couple of years ago. So it's a sort of once every century type sport, I think, so far. Let's make it more popular.
Well, I'm definitely going to give it a go. How does one collect the bumblebees in the first place?
Oh, that's the easy bit. It's the getting the mouse to bolt. That's the hard bit.
It's so close to like last episode when we were... It is going to be last episode. It hasn't come out yet.
I don't know what's happening.
Purdy.
The time
we
has
were
changed.
talking about... They're talking about the tiny shotgun to shoot moss with.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Brilliant. Yes.
That's dustshot.
I want to do that. I do. The one actually we're planning to do next with my dad is hawking beetles with a scops owl. So you've got a tiny little Mediterranean owl, and you get your beetle to run across the carpet, and you go get it, and this bird flies down and grabs it, and that'll be fun.
That's amazing. I feel like sometimes you probably just sit at home with a big drink.
We don't spend enough time together. This is
I don't spend enough time with other people, I think, is probably...
What can we do? We're going to go and flight, I don't know, wasps over jam.
Oh yeah, okay. So one of our really generous helps, we give away a prize each week for the Fieldsports Nation, the membership group. We have the 2,000 people who support us at Fieldsports Channel. Oh, for small matters like being sued by Chris Backham and things like that. But one of the things we do is we give away a prize each week, and one of our great supporters is Bugger Salt. That's BUGA. Bugger Salt.
I've seen them, and they're amazing.
They are amazing. And for shooting flies, a bit light for wasps, caliber's too small for wasps. That's real big game.
You need rock salt for wasps, do you?
Well, exactly, yes, that's right. Yes, brilliant. Just fill up the hopper with salts, you pump it up with air, and about 6 inches to a foot, you can wipe out a fly. It's great.
You've just mentioned it, so I'm going to just get back onto that topic. How is the old Packham situation? Have you spoken about it all day?
No.
Right, go on.
For legal reasons, I've been trying to avoid it, but I'll
Are you allowed to talk about it?
Well, I'm glad to say the lawyer's not in the audience, so I'll tell you what, why don't I talk about it, and if there's a problem, I'll contact you later.
Just let everyone know what on earth's going on in the first place.
Okay, we are being sued by Chris Packham for defamation, and it comes down to did we or did we not print the right thing about something that happened in his life. So that's pretty straightforward. From our point of view, is it okay to shine a light on Chris Packham when he says things like, the hunting community set fire to a car outside my gates, the hunting community has left a dead badger on my doorstep? Is it okay to say it just might not be the hunting community, it might be somebody else? And from his point of view, it's reputationally very damaging. You know, it's the reason he's become president of the RSPCA, it's the reason he's got a major series on the BBC. But apart from that, it's reputationally damaging.
So, on the subject of Chris Packham, should we do some unpopular opinions?
I like the link. Yes. Right, we've been sent one. It's quite short and sweet, and this has come from someone that George is going to call the Colonel. George says, I assume he has mustard cords and a walrus moustache. I didn't know you'd put that. Right, okay, so he says, extended chokes are abomination and should be banned from the game shooting field. Last season, I had to send 2 individuals home after they turned up with shiny choke tubes poking out the end of their gun. What is the world coming to?
Yours, outrage from Tunbridge Wells.
Correct, yes.
Can you picture the guy already?
I've met him, yes.
I think I've met several of him, probably.
One of the guests of honour at the Game Fair here is Paul Whitehouse, the comedian. I am sure he's here for material. That's the only reason he's come.
Do you think there'll be a new sketch comedy show?
Very, very, very drunk.
What do we think to this guy's opinion?
I was going to ask you, Chris, are you a sticky out chokes man?
What do you think?
I don't know, it's touch and go, I think.
On my 1895 side-by-side, do you reckon they'd work?
It's a bit like putting a conservatory on a beautiful Palladian architecture house, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the reason they have listed building consent. It's stuff like this, isn't it?
Charlie, what about you? What do you think? Is this guy on to something, or is he just harrumphing into his moustache?
I'm afraid I'm not a fan of harrumphing. I'm a bit new school for this guy, I'm sorry to say. And yeah, I don't go with it. I think you can use what you like within reason. And I think the funnier the better. So yeah, extended jokes make me laugh. Bring them on.
So you're okay with a barrel sticker as well? We're talking game shooting.
Okay, so I had the joy of going shooting in China, where pheasants come from, and they gave me a Hunan shotgun from the Hunan Shotgun Company.
Wow.
The brand was not the Royal. The brand was not the B725. It was the Hunan Squirrel, and it had a plastic molded stock with a relief Bambi on the side of it, literally a Bambi.
Amazing.
I want that shotgun. That would be my.
You mean
go-to
they didn't let you bring it home?
Yeah, there's funny rules about export, but yeah, I would love that shotgun.
You know, we talk about jobs in the shooting world, and we sort of enjoy ours.
Yeah.
His beats ours, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. But I'd like to know, okay, who in the audience has got sticky out tubes in their game gun?
It's like the sticky out belly button question, isn't it? Nobody's going to admit
Not a single hand. Is that because
Ben
people
Hughes,
are ashamed to admit
previous
it?
podcast guest. He doesn't. They do, don't they?
Literally no one.
Right, so that was no one.
No one.
Potentially one. We'll find out later. So that suggests something.
That it's an unpopular. No, that it's an unpopular opinion. No, it's a popular opinion.
Popular. I mean, look. I think you might be. Well, there's no one that has them. You're okay with it. I understand why you're okay with it.
Yeah.
I just think you walk up Gunmakers Row and you look at the effort that goes into the clothing, the guns, the boots, the this, that, the other. Everything looks so smart. There's so much craft, and then you just have this horrible bit.
I from a design point of view, I totally agree. So,
but shouldn't we be holding on to some of this look and feel and just not let it all get a bit too,
Why stop at? Yeah.
A case on an iPhone.
Yeah, we just had that from the audience. Yes.
That is a very good point. The design team at Apple must be they must get so angry when someone brings out the new shock-absorbing case.
Well, I was about to say, what about, surfboard signature graphics? You could have something on the side of your barrel some of the clay shooters do it already. You could have your family crest, Chris.
Do one, Charlie.
No, but I think you're probably right, Charlie, which is that it's fun to be a bit sort of faux snooty about these things and go, well, really, a gentleman doesn't use an over and under and all this, and wears his grandfather's breeks and all this sort of stuff. But none of it really matters. As long as you're fun to be around and you shoot safely and
being sent home matters to the person who was sent home.
Well, yes.
I like the fact
great for everybody else.
I love the fact there's still people out there that send people home from shoot days. That's classic. Long may that last.
Quite right.
I don't want to twist round. I kind of do.
Are you going to flip-flop or are you going to
I am a little bit. I'm a bit fencing on this, weirdly. Because I do think, just do what you want to do. Just embrace it, crack on. But, yeah...
I mean, you have just bought an over and under, haven't you? So it's a slippery slope for you.
I haven't.
Haven't you?
No.
You bailed.
I tried until it came to sending the money. And I was like, I can't do this. Anyway, sorry, it makes me sound really snobby, doesn't it?
No, it's fine. It's not like anyone's going to hear it.
I turned up on a clay shoot the other day, my side-by-side. It was the Schoffel anniversary clay shoot. And after the first drive, it got really ridiculously hot, and I know I was in for such an expensive bill if I got it out again, so stuck it away, used the Browning all day. Much better.
Did you shoot better?
Definitely. It's not about shooting better, though, George, is it?
No. Well, if it was, I would have given up a long time ago.
So do we think this is popular or unpopular? They should be banned from the game shooting field.
Unpopular.
I agree. Unpopular.
It's unpopular, but no one has them. Weird one, that.
I'm sort of broadly against banning things, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well said.
I would like to
that's
ban
a good point.
banning things.
Yeah.
You mad libertarian, you. Yeah, quite right.
Good. Right, so Spartacus and the Colonel are now members of the Most Noble Order of the Garters and will very soon be in receipt of their very own set of the highly exclusive Guns on Pegs podcast Shooting Sock Garters. If you too have got a shooting quandary or a query that you'd like us to help with, or if you've got an unpopular opinion, send it to pod@gunsonpegs.com, and if we use it in any future episode, you will get your garters.
Right, so the way we wrap these podcasts up is with a section we call Desert Island Shooting. One last day. Shooting's going to end tomorrow, just like lots of people have been telling me today. Shooting's going to end tomorrow. Money is no object. You've got use of the Guns on Pegs time machine, helicopter, private jet, all that sort of stuff. You've done this before, and to be honest, what you've said on this episode already is basically Desert Island Shooting, what you're doing this year. Go one stage further. What are you doing, Charlie? Where are you going?
Am I allowed to do what I did before? I mean, I know it's boring, but I really, really believe this.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
I can't remember it, so that's fine.
I can. It's a desert island. You're absolutely right. It's got a mountain on it. It's got a little bit of plain, and it's got a marsh, and it's got snipe, which is really, really important to me, and it's got trout in its streams, and it has an almost unlimited supply of native women who don't wear clothes to drive wild boar towards me. I think that would be my desert island sport.
That's not what you said before.
Oh, I think it is. It's an abiding fantasy, and I've had the whole of lockdown to think about it.
Yes, you really found lockdown hard, didn't you?
No. You can tell he's been on stage for 2 days as well. He's tired, he's had a drink.
Lost his mind. I mean,
like
it's
that.
definitely a unique desert island
What
shooting.
sort of part of the world is this island in?
Oh, hot, definitely. Yes, I mean, I'm bringing my surfboard as well, and my stereo, if that's all right.
Very good. Well, look, honestly, a huge round of applause for Charlie. Thank you very much for joining us and being on the other end.
Thank you very much.
And a huge thank you to everyone for coming along and watching this live episode of the podcast. We will be back in a couple of weeks' time, but until then, thanks very much for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you.